All right, welcome back. We are continuing on building this React Redux application. And where I left off on last video, I had a little bit of work left to do on wiring up the checkboxes with React Redux, but I did finish that. So now when you check one of these boxes, this list automatically populates, and then if you uncheck one of these boxes, that'll automatically uncheck this. And then the inverse is true as well. So everything is wired together as far as checking and unchecking boxes. That's all working correctly now. I will show you how I did that, and it's pretty simple. All I really had to do to get the last part of the checkbox wiring for Redux was I created a function inside of the product tile, and it's a function that just checks whether the product has been checked or not. And all it's doing is iterating through the products and then matching to see if this product has been checked. And then if it is, inside of this checkbox, I'm setting it to checked if it finds the product. And then of course on deselect, I'm on deselecting if it is checked, and then if it's not checked, I'm checking it. So I'm selecting it. So just a little bit of wiring on the checked parameter right there. So what I want to do now, and I also kind of updated the title, and I cleaned up a little bit of the CSS, I added a few more products. That's what I did between the videos. The thing that I want to do now is add a couple more stylistic features, and I think that one of the nice features to have would be if I hover over this, it shows like some bigger view, or if I click on it, maybe it shows some bigger view with more details. And maybe if I hover over one of these, I get information about like what is this for, like maybe somebody new to this this whole thing doesn't know exactly what the VTX antenna means or what it's for. So the tool I want to use to do this is something called react-tooltip. I recently used this at work on a project, so I think it's pretty good, and I didn't have any problems with it, so we'll go ahead and use this. I'm just going to say npm install react-tooltip -- save, and it will save it into my dependencies in the package.json. I'm just going to assume, yeah, okay, so that's finished. And the place that I want to do that is inside of the product grid. So here's our product grid now. I just am loading all of these products, and then each of them is a column, and I'm giving it a different title. So what I was thinking was if you hover over the frame or something, you'll get like this tooltip. That's kind of my idea here. So I'm going to say import React tooltip from React tooltip. And the way this works is you say data tip, and that is going to be the data that you're going to display. And then you're going to have well, there's a couple ways to do this, but the way I want to do this is I want it to be when I hover over this thing, I show the tooltip. So I'm going to say data tip, data for equals let's see, this will be like the ID, so it's going to be the tooltip ID 1. We'll clean this up later. And then I need to do a React tooltip ID equals tooltip ID 1. Let's say type equals dark. I think you have different types. That's a theme thing. And then you can place it, you can say you want it top, right, or bottom. let's see, effect solid. And I'm just gonna have something in here like test, right? Okay, let's give this a shot, see if this worked. I'm gonna make sure I didn't get any errors. Doesn't look like I did. So if yeah, right? So you can see if I hover over this, I'm gonna get this little tooltip to display. And we want to make this a little bit more useful. So I'm thinking what I'll do, I'll have a const, whoops, not a const, a const, and I'll call it tooltips. Not that. And I'm just going to return maybe a div full of tooltips. Let's see if this works, because I don't want to clutter up this main area, and I might just have a tooltips thing that gets loaded into the page. I'll just call this frames info tooltip. And then tooltips I will load down at the bottom here. Just want to see if this works. If it does, I think we'll go with kind of, yeah, it seems to still work. So I would like to do that because, and then eventually we'll move this into a separate file and maybe just load it somewhere else, not in here, just to declutter this whole process here. So for the frames tooltip, I'll say your frame is the basis basis on which everything else is built. All of the frames listed here are between 210 and 250 millimeter in size. Okay, so I think we want it to be above always, so I'll say place equals above. Something weird happened. Okay. That is interesting. This is not coming from our code. This looks like it's coming from react-tooltip. Maybe some error there. Yeah, something's crashing that tooltip. Let's yeah, so it's crashing as soon as I do that. I wonder if it was that I just added that was making it crash. Yeah, apparently it was. So you can't do above. So that's one thing we can do. I'll wire in just another one just so we can see. See flight controller. I think what I want to do is also put an icon, like maybe a help question mark icon, so that it only works when you hover over that. So this will be flight controller tooltip. The flight controller coordinates communication between the various components on the quadcopter. Okay, cool. So let's check out icons. I think what I would like to do is some kind of icon for help. So let's check out this material icons list. Help. Okay, so I think that there's an icon called help. What I would like to do is use one of these icons inside of that header for each of these sections. So there we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pull in font icon. And then let's check this out. See if this works. I'm going to get rid of the styles here because I don't think we need that. And nothing happened. Okay, so it turns out all you have to do to add the icons is you need to include this Google Fonts API material icon style sheet, which is just a list. This is all the icons themselves actually. And then when you reference the font icon, this is going to be the icon name. So my icon name is going to be help. And then you have to style it by manually passing in styles here. And then on the class name, it'll be material icons. And then I just moved the data tip down here. So now when I hover over this, that's where I'm going to get the data to render, or the tooltip to render. So I'll do the same thing here for flight controllers. And I'll do one more after this just to get an idea of how to do this for you guys. So there we go. This can get rid of this. And then motors, we'll say motors. Motors tooltip. Finally, we'll have motors tooltip. Motors, blah, 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 right? Doesn't matter. Okay, so that was the one thing I wanted to do for kind of the info to help. The other thing I want to do is make it, when you click on one of these images, I want to pop up a dialog, and I think we'll use the material UI dialog here. So let's check out this. This is going to be down inside of the product tile. So when I click on an image, I want this dialog to pop up. And what I'm going to do is create the dialog kind of directly under that image. Throw the dialog in here. So in this case, we've now got state here, but I'm not sure if we totally need that. So let's take a look at how they're using this state. Just to walk through. So this is now a component with state. It says state open is false. On the handle open, it's setting the state open to true, and on handle close, it's setting state open to false. Now, when you click this, it's turning the state to be open on true, and now the dialog is opening based on that state. So that seems pretty reasonable. I think we should probably implement this. This will no longer be a functional stateless component though. This will now be a React component with state. So I'm going to go ahead and change the structure. So we're going to actually make this a class product title, or product tile. And now we're going to extend React component. So now this is a stateful component. This is a little bit different. And I have to change this as well, because now this is a property or a method on a class. And you'll notice now we have to call this everywhere where we're referencing these things. So I'm going to have to make those changes as well. So it's going to be this.props, 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 etc., etc. It's going to be this.props everywhere. And it's going to be this.product checked. So the reason is we're now inside of a class and we're talking about this instance of the class. Before I was kind of referencing it as more like a static context, but that is not the case anymore. Now everything is all relative to this instance of the class. All right, so now we're saying this.state open and this.handle close, and I'm gonna wrap this image with an A. I'll say on click, whoops, on click, and I'll copy basically what it's doing here. I'm just gonna say this.handle open. So I'm gonna reference that function. When you get an on click, you're gonna do this.handle open. All right, so let's make sure this all looks good. We've got the state, we've got handle open, got handle closed, we've got, this is now, whoops, that needs to be fixed. This is probably okay at this point. Actions, what are actions here? Yeah, this has some array of actions. I think we don't want that, so we don't need to pass that. In fact, I think this dialog window is just going to show some information, and then if you click anywhere, it'll close. So here we go. I have something wrong here. Right, so now this is actually a render function. Okay. Does that make sense? Everything's gonna have this thing here now. So the thing that I really wanted to do inside of this dialog was make the image larger. So I think what we'll do is say this is a product image, but it's gonna be like product image large. So I believe I have a CSS class for product image where I'm making it tiny. Where is it? Product image. Yeah. So it's going to be product image large. Is that what I called it? Large. And we'll say it can be 10. Right, so there's the big image now when you click this. So the image is actually already that big. What we're doing is just kind of letting it expand larger. There we go. So the other thing I wanted to do was kind of display the name in here. We'll say like h3 this dot props dot product dot name, And underneath this, I want to display, actually, how about above the image, and underneath that, I want a little p tag here. And if there is additional information, I want to display that. So I have a notes in a lot of these, this .product dot notes. So I think I put some stuff in the notes here, yeah. So the idea is this will give you a little bit more information about this, and then the dialog with actions, that title can actually be this. We can get rid of that. Cool. So you can see very quickly we are able to make a nice little useful dialog box here. I think the only other thing I'd like to do is kind of go through and render out the product prices and whatnot, but that's probably enough for this video. We've got some more nice styling here. So anyway, thanks for watching.